ultimately gave up his back, and it didn't look good at the end of that first round, and going in round 2 for the tough runner-up. Out of nowhere, spinning back kick to the head, knee, ground and pound. Adri, your thoughts on that amazing finish?
Yeah, it was amazing for sure. Actually, I was watching the fight along with my team. We were in the hotel waiting for our fight that night. Just last weekend here in Jakarta, and when we kept saying like, Gegard Mousasi gotta look out for the crazy kicks of Uriah Hall, and right after we said it, like, the kick happened.
It's amazing.
So. Yeah, it's no surprise actually. What's surprising for me is actually, if you see the rankings, he just popped up on the top 10 right now. He's number 10.
He's broken in the 10 with that win. Yeah. I mean, that may make sense. I think Mousasi was like 5 or 6, and the rankings aside, numbers aside, everybody knows the Moose is an experienced great fighter.
What's gonna be interesting is who he's gonna fight next. I mean,
who's
like
next exactly.
He's going to replace Michael Bisping, right?
Yes, exactly. I think I don't know if it's been officially announced, but yeah, I heard that Australia card is subject to change because of Bisping's surgery, and the rumour is that it's Uriah Hall. If that's official, what's your thoughts there?
If it's official, it's something. I don't know. I mean, like, he just broke into the top 10 and he's gonna go against a guy in number 14, which is Robert Whittaker.
Yeah, back the way.
Something I want to see, maybe, but it's something that we have to see to test whether Uriah Hall actually belongs in the top 10 or not. If he passed Robert Whittaker, then he can retain that number 10 ranking. If not, then it's going to go back to number 15 or 16 or something.
It's a bit of a gamble, yeah. I was talking to a friend of mine post-fight on that one, and it says, like, you've got to capitalise on this momentum by taking a fight at short notice. And I agree with you. Short notice, yeah, but you've got to be going the other way. You've got to be going Mousasi up rather than top 10 then down. But if he produces another spectacular performance, which he's very capable of doing, I would be eating my words then. Bob, did you get a chance to see this spectacular knockout from Hall, and are your thoughts on him replacing
no. I was working at the time. I had my phone on, and I was updating the play-by-play results on SureDog and some other sites as well. And, like you guys were describing, that's how it was written on the sites where, he was struggling the first round. Then he came out in spectacular fashion very early in the second round and winning by, all these different techniques, which this is undoubtedly the biggest win in Uriah Hall's career. There's no question about that, over a guy in Gegard Mousasi who's fought and beaten some pretty top-level fighters in mixed martial arts. I mean, some very, very big names. And I agree with Audrey. We don't know whether or not he belongs in the top 10. Only time will tell. I mean, this victory certainly propelled him, rightfully so, up the rankings, up the UFC rankings. And so we're just going to have to see what's going to happen. I mean, as of right now, do we think that he's capable of? Certainly, he's capable. Is he likely at this point to fight for a title, or at least towards that direction? No, he's got to put together some more wins. But the great thing about Uriah Hall, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that he has a fighting style that is unpredictable and that could end the fight in the blink of an eye, which makes him dangerous for everybody he fights. It makes people want to watch him as well. That's a very, very important point. So I think Uriah Hall's a very, very good guy. He's a good ambassador of the sport. He's a well-likable individual. I think if he would just perhaps train other aspects of his game, he would be even more of a devastating fighter, and really, really close in on the upper echelon fighters out there. But he's got to be satisfied, and the UFC's got to be satisfied with this result.
Oh yeah. So let's move on then. Finally, it was the main event, UFC Japan. It was Big Country versus Josh Barnett. I was so surprised, and perhaps you guys were too, of Roy's stand-up grappling. He took Barnett down a number of times, but not enough to get the W. And what can we say about Roy Nelson? Hasn't already been said. He's so tough, so durable. But in this fight, not able to utilise that big right hand as much. Well, I think later we learned, in fact, had a broken thumb. But Bob, I'll start with you on this one. We're next for Big Country, and your thoughts also on the War Master Josh Barnett.
Well, I wasn't really surprised by the result of this fight. I think, a lot of people that I was talking to had Barnett going in as the favorite. Roy Nelson's really only shot, I thought, to win would be to land one of those haymakers. Yeah. And like I said, I didn't see the fight. I don't know how many shots, if he was really close to landing. But I don't think that, even though Nelson is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, I don't think that he was going to be able to submit Josh Barnett. And I didn't think he would be able to really outstrike him significantly. So not surprised by the result. As far as where Roy Nelson goes from here, I think Roy Nelson has sort of remained the same in the UFC over the last few years or so. He's a tough fighter. He's someone that I wouldn't elevate him to a gatekeeper. I would say he's more of somebody in the heavyweight division that can potentially fight anybody, potentially fight up and coming fighters, and sort of almost be a test for someone in that division. I don't think they're going to cut him anytime soon. He's been in there a long time. He's fought the highest level of competitors, and he's probably just going to remain the same there. Continuing to fight and continuing to move forward.
And hopefully he does. Adria, deserved decision win for Barnett, do you think? How did you score the fight, and who would you like to see Josh Barnett fight next?
First of all, let me say that I'm very happy that Josh Barnett got the win. On who I want to see him fight next, I gotta say that I want to see him starting to go there, like to go to the title picture. Yeah. Because I saw on the internet that his manager said that he won't compete for Metamoris.
He won't compete.
So he's gonna focus on the UFC.
Interesting.
So I want to see him now start fighting someone for the title picture, like maybe Stipe Miocic or Andrei Arlovsky. Between those two.
Yeah, it'd be good to see him getting those catch wrestling hands on someone who's, well, I want to say young, up and coming and young, but the heavyweight division, you don't start till you're 30, seems like,
Yeah.
But yeah, Barnett, I don't know about title picture just yet. Arlovsky's name's getting thrown about a lot. I'd like to see one, maybe two more fights, depending on how this division's so difficult to predict. But yeah, I would like to see Barnett. That's a great shout of Miocic, actually. I would like to see those two go at it, depending on the outcome of Miocic's fight. Well, let's move on to our second part of the show. And we're looking ahead to this Saturday, which is UFC 192 in H-Town, the great state of Texas. So, Adri, I'll start with you on this one. Victor Pesta, he's a late replacement for Anthony Hamilton. How do you see this heavyweight contest going down with Pesta and the Black Beast, Derek Lewis?
To be honest, I don't really know much about these two guys, but I heard good things about them. So I'm expecting a very good fight from two of them.
I think with Hamilton, it'll be easy to protect, but Victor Pesta, a lot of us aren't really clued up on his style or how he's going to threaten Lewis in this fight. It would have been easier to predict had Hamilton remained with us. But Bob, your thoughts on this heavyweight bout? Could go either way, right?
Sure. Yeah, I think that this is Victor Pesta is an undefeated heavyweight as best as I can remember, and he doesn't really have. He's got one loss on his record, and the one loss was to the fighter that Sean Jordan is fighting on this card. he's got some TKO wins. He's got some submission wins. I haven't seen him fight too much, but Derek Lewis is coming off of a loss against Sean Jordan, and Derek Lewis he's a ferocious striker to mimic Joe Rogan, and this is a fight where I would think that he would be the favorite to win. But then again, you never really can tell until these guys fight. I would pick Derek Lewis, but I think you could probably make an argument that Pesta's maybe a little bit more well-rounded. I mean, Lewis, he's either going to knock you out or that's really it. Lewis doesn't have a lot of submission wins. I'm not saying he doesn't have any ground game, but he's not really known for his grappling. And when he's come up against decent grapplers like Jared Rosholt and Ruin Potts, he's lost. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. But I would just say, just based on UFC experience and based on knockout power, I would say Derek Lewis would have to be the favorite in this fight. Excellent.
Stay with yourself, Bob. We have Yair Rodriguez, a spectacular performance in Mexico, and looking to follow up on this one. Hopefully, no regurgitation this time post-fight the Purcell. How do you see him faring against Dan Hooker?
Well, this is a young fighter. He's relatively new. This will be his third fight in the UFC. And I'm not really familiar with Dan Hooker, to be honest with you. I really haven't seen him fight, but the field is wide open for these guys. There's a lot of fighters, a lot of potential matchups in the featherweight division. This is a division that really has been, I think, invigorated by Conor McGregor. It's one of the most stacked divisions in the UFC, and so could either one of these guys be a future star in the featherweight division? Absolutely. So, but just based on what I've seen, I would have to put Yair as the favorite. Although I'm looking at Dan's record right now, Dan has a lot more fights, and he's also fought a little bit more in the UFC, so that could give him an advantage as well, but we'll have to see.
Very interesting. What about you yourself, Adri? What's your thoughts, Dan Hooker, Rodriguez? Who are you picking in this contest?
Yeah, I'm definitely picking Dan Hooker over this.
Wow.
Dan Hooker has the experience edge here, with 17 fights under his belt, and he beat some of the tough up and comer in the UFC.
Yep.
He beat Hatsuo Ioki in the second round with a KO. He beat Ian Entwistle with TKO in the first round. So yeah, I'm picking Dan Hooker over this. Yair Rodriguez, I'm not too familiar with him, but with only his 7th fight coming up, 2 fights in the UFC, both win by decision, I think Dan Hooker has on paper, Dan Hooker has gotta get the win here.
Interesting. Bob, I want to come in on this one in particular, Sean Jordan versus Magomedov. I know you recently spoke to Sean regarding this heavyweight fight. What's your thoughts on this one, and how do you think it will go down?
Yeah, thanks. I had the opportunity to interview Sean on my podcast maybe about 3 weeks ago, a month ago, and Sean Jordan is a guy that's improving. He's building on his athleticism. He was a multi-sport athlete in college, and he's a guy that he's incorporating these kicks now. He's a heavyweight that could do a back salt. He's just extremely athletic, and I think that the tide is turning in his favor now. He's on a 3-fight win streak, and he's just, his biggest problem going into these fights is just himself. The mental game. He sort of, in the past, he sort of alluded to problems with his mental game, losing focus, doing the wrong thing, particularly in his losses to Gonzaga and Matt Mitrione. But I think he's got that under control, and I think he's a heavyweight